Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by Chris, the technician Aceto, on this February 6th, 2017 day. We are in the month of February, Chris, which, as you know, is Black History Month, and it is Dave Palumbo and Johnny Styles' birthday month. So we must.
Oh, I didn't know it's you guys.
A special. We must take a special, I guess you could say, a moment of silence to acknowledge that. You know, it's funny because you sent me that clip, and I'm going to play it, but Chris sent me a clip from Bill Maher, and he knows I love Bill Maher, and he does too. And it was on YouTube about him going off on Trump. It was just, I could play the whole thing. It's so great, but I'll play a little part of it. But it's interesting that I don't know. Trump seems like he shouldn't be president. Like, it doesn't seem like it's real, but it is real. It's like almost like it's like we're making up the whole thing. You ever see these movies where there's like a spoof? I feel like we're in the spoof. You know what I mean? But
it's a little. It's 30% policy. It's 30% and 30% policy and 70% entertainment.
Yeah. Do you think that people like the other countries say these guys are the biggest morons? They got this guy as president, or do you think they're like, this guy could be dangerous? We better watch ourselves, with this guy.
I think it's both. I think there's probably many countries who think he's dangerous, and some people probably are, very supportive of him, or like the fact that he's the president. Yeah. And that's the diversity of the world. The diversity of opinions is that some people love Trump, some people hate Trump, and then there's people in the middle. Ideally, I guess when you have a leader, you're gonna have issues with some of their policies that you think are dumb policies or policies that hurt people and hurt the country. And then there's going to be some policies that you support and you think are great for people and great for the country. What's great about this country is you should be able to criticize the policies that you don't like,
right?
And support what you do like. And just like anything, you're not going to support one person 100% all the time on their policies. Because people can't be in agreement on everything all the time, and that's just the way it is. So the problem is right now, I think Trump's problem, his main problem is, if you criticize him, he goes ballistic and he doesn't let it go. That's why he has tweet wars with everyone from Meryl Streep to Alex Baldwin, right, to Matt Lauer, you name it.
You would think he has more pressing problems.
He doesn't. He does have more pressing problems, but when your ego is so massive.
You think it's like he's sitting on the toilet, Chris, and he's just like, man, I got to check Twitter. And he's just tweeting out these things like no one even knows what he's tweeting, like all his security advisors. He's in the bathroom taking a dump, and he's texting.
No, it doesn't matter. Howard Stern summarized it perfectly this week. Howard Stern says he probably, I guess Howard Stern claims to be very good friends with Trump, and he said that he thinks that Trump is pissed that he's president because he said he ran so that he could get a better contract with NBC for The Apprentice. And he says, the problem is, he said, Howard Stern also said he loves Hollywood and loves to be adored by, celebrities.
Right.
And loves hobnobbing with celebrities. So
you think he won by accident? Is that what happened?
No. It doesn't matter. What Howard Stern, my point is, like Howard Stern's point, is that he hates that he's not beloved by Hollywood.
I got you.
I mean, Trump's been in a million commercials. He's been in WWF. He loves being front and center. He's a great entertainer. I love The Apprentice show. I love when he was on WWF. WWE. And, to not be loved by the people that you like to be loved by is a feeling of rejection.
Isn't it funny that they loved him in Hollywood? Now that he's president, they're like, oh, we don't like him anymore. We don't think he should be our president. I mean,
well, because when he was running, before he was running, he wasn't saying wacky things all the time.
I'm sure he was saying worse stuff behind the scenes. You know,
Well,
Hollywood. You know what? Hollywood
like
is a bunch of fucking phonies. I don't buy into it one bit. They all have to have some kind of very liberal agenda, or they feel like they're not being artsy enough for what they're supposed to do. Yeah, I don't buy into that. I think it's, you know, if they liked him when he was in Hollywood, they should like him now. It's they're all phonies. That's why I couldn't live in California. I went out there in the '90s. You know, did the bodybuilding dream thing. I was gonna move there, and I like, you know what? These people are all fucking full of shit. Everyone's like smiles to your face, and then behind your back, they're backstabbing you, out for themselves.
Yeah.
It's funny because you would think Trump would be like, you know what? I'm beyond Hollywood now. I'm the president of the United States, the most powerful man in the world. Who gives a shit about these people in Hollywood? But he can't let it go. So there's a great segment Bill Maher did on Arnold, about how Trump responded to Arnold. There was a big prayer, I guess you could say, breakfast, national prayer breakfast that happens every year, and you know, Trump was addressing the people. I'm going to let Bill Maher say it because I don't think you and I can do it justice. Here we go. I'm going to play this clip.
And finally, to cap off the week, yesterday at the National Prayer Breakfast, the president opened the proceedings by saying what tremendous success Celebrity Apprentice was when he was the host of it, but now that it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's a total disaster. The ratings went right down the tubes. Amen.
That's great.
He actually said, Trump said, we got to pray let's pray for Arnold's ratings.
Yeah.
That he gets those ratings up.
I mean, that was at the national prayer breakfast. That was the prayer he did, you know, for Arnold's ratings, because he's so upset about the fact that he's not on Celebrity Apprentice anymore. And I'm sure if they would have let him do it, he'd probably still do it, right?
Of course. But he said, well, he's still doing his business because they said you can't be president and run your business at the same time. And he said, I'm Donald Trump. In other words, I'm the best. He said, I can do both at the same time if I want to. I can do it. I can do both.
It's crazy when you think about it. And you know Arnold, who's got a, you know, Arnold deservedly has a big ego because, you know, he's one of the most famous movie stars in the world. It's got to be driving him crazy what Trump's saying. I'm sure he's not happy about this, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, this is just the opening salvo.
Yeah.
You know, Arnold already responded to it. You saw his response, right?
Well, he had a couple responses. One of them was, "Let's trade jobs" or something like that. I think he said.
Yeah, let's trade jobs. And since you're an expert on ratings, the dig was that Trump is coming in as the lowest rated new president in history.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, meaning his ratings aren't so hot either. Well,
you know, Arnold's stewing because Arnold knows that he would have won the election probably if he was just born in this stupid country, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, he would have been a good candidate, you know.
He definitely definitely would have run. You know, he would have run. And I mean, he theoretically is more popular than Trump, so I think that, you know, he might have won. But it's Howard Stern's theory about Trump is interesting because the fact that, you know, maybe Howard Stern really was running, you know, like, and saying all these crazy things just so that he wouldn't get elected, and then he got elected, right? You know?
Yeah, it's like the producers movie with
Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks.
Let's try to make a Broadway show that's going to be a disaster, and it turns out to be a hit.
And the whole point was if they could make they could make a move. They could make a Broadway show such a disaster that they could swallow and steal the investors' money. They got all kinds of investor money up front, and if it only lasted one night, they could fold and say, "Oh, sorry, it was so terrible and so hideous that they wouldn't allow us to run a second show. Nobody showed up, and they put all the money in their pocket." And as it turns out, that it was a big, giant hit.
Yep. So we'll see what happens. Enough politics. Let's segue to bodybuilding. People say we talk about too much regular stuff. Some people love that, and some people don't like it. I don't give a shit. I talk about whatever I want. But I want to talk about Big Ramy for a minute because he's, you know, arguably the most dynamic, you know, exciting, you know, bodybuilding talent to hit the scene over the last 10 years. And there's been a lot of political maneuvering on this guy. I mean, we started working with Bader Boodai. Then he went to Dennis James, and he was going to move to live with Dennis James, and then he went back to Bader Boodai. Then he was training with you for a very brief stint, and then he went to George somehow George, scoffed him up, and then he went back to you. And you worked with him through the Olympia and the European Tour this past year. And he did the best he's ever been. And he's looked the best he's ever looked. He beat Dexter, I think, twice in the European Tour.
He beat him twice.
Rode it every time.
Yeah.
He placed top
Don't
5
forget,
in Olympia.
Don't forget, and I know Dex will have a meltdown on this.
Right.
But it was universally accepted that he won with the exception of the 7 judges, that in Spain he spanked that lineup too. And that's important to note because it was extremely controversial.
Yeah, and
we love controversy.
Put it this way: Ramy set himself up for this year to be very special and to do some damage because he let everyone be known that he was back and he was, at his best, and that he could get to be his best, and he could get conditioned, something that we didn't know if was possible. You helped facilitate that, obviously. Now, all of a sudden, we hear over the last couple of weeks, Ramy has left you, and he is working with Bader Boodai again, who offered him some kind of a monetary compensation. First of all, what is your feeling about the whole thing? Because I know, I know you don't usually take guys back, and for you to take Ramy back was an exception to your rules, your moral rules. Now that he's left again, where does that leave you? What are you thinking, and how did this whole thing come about? Did he call you and tell you?
No, he didn't call me and tell me. And if you, he's never, that's the odd part or the problematic part is, remember, to review what you just said, take it back to like Bader was working with him, and then DJ was working with him, and the danger in that is they started, potentially World War III over who was really or really not working with him.
Right.
That's how the whole moniker, the Camel Crew, it was a slur.
Right. Dennis was pissed off at that.
Believe me, Bader was pissed off because people, I don't know if they were encouraged by Bader, but people after that interview with DJ were calling me and saying, "How dare you not defend Arab people?" And of course, I went ballistic on that. It's not my job to, defend every Muslim or every Arab person. Over one derogatory mark. So that was a derogatory mark, Camel Crew. And it was you, actually, who encouraged Bader to turn it into a positive. We joked about it and joked about it and joked about it.
Let's make T-shirts out of it, and he did.
Yeah, and he did. So those guys ran into World War III, and then along the road somewhere, I think 2014 was the first time I met Bader. Bader said, "Ramy wants to work with you." I was with Johnny Styles, and I said, "Yeah, sure. Here's my email." And then 2015, Johnny would tell you, right? Or 2015, we ran into Ramy again, privately, very privately, me, Johnny, and Ramy. And Ramy made it explicit that he said, "I want to work with you." And I said, "You got my email, And the reason I didn't, say, "Let's get going now," is simply because, I know he has a strong relationship with Bader, and I've always encouraged Ramy from the day I met him when he's asked in a roundabout way, although he did, when I met him with Johnny in Dubai, he asked in an explicit way, "I want you to work with me." But previously he had, beat around the bush.
Right.
And I told him, and this is my advice, always be loyal to the people who helped you. And what I meant by that was your primary source, my understanding. I don't know the details. Bader Boodai, Oxygen Gym, is your primary source of support.
Right.
After that, it was DJ. And in fact, when Ramy had asked me to help him, I said, "You know what? Be patient." Jay Cutler went from second to the last in the Olympia to eventually almost beating Coleman to beating Coleman. Coleman went from like 15th to 8th to whatever. You don't just blossom into Mr. Olympia, in
you have patience.
Your first
Right.
first 2 or 3, years into the pros. So you have to be patient. So I told him to be patient. So just to give you context, it goes back to that Bader and DJ, they had their spat, and then
let me ask you. Hold on, let me stop you for a second. Let me ask you this question, because what's not irking me, what's pondering or going around my head is Ramy that
Yes.
needy? Is he that needy? I don't know. Or I mean, because it seems like everyone's fighting over this guy, obviously, because he's a terrific new talent, and everyone wants to help him, be the best he could be, and everyone obviously wants to take, aside from you, because I know you don't give a crap, everyone wants to take credit for making him the best that he could be, and Mr. Olympia, whatever, everything like that. Where's Ramy in all this? Does he know what he's doing, or does he really need a lot of guidance?
Look, let me just finish, because part of that is this. To answer that question is, what, right from Ramy's mouth, every single guru in the world has contacted him to help him. I mean, the names are just endless.
Right.
And which made him laugh, because I've never even texted him once in my life.
No, I know you.
To say, hey, I can help you, because
Chris has got the ignore her style. She'll come to you. That's the don't give the girlfriend that's too hot looking too much attention, because you'll never get her. So just ignore her, and then she'll come to you.
So George came, the irony is George, came into the picture, and George tried to work with Ramy, and I don't know what happened there really. I mean, I know things that happened and didn't happen, but my assumption is George didn't want to get into a DJ versus Bader battle, right? So right. George just let it go and moved on.
Gotcha.
And then I, came back into the picture last year, and then we had the 2016 season, and then I'm back out of the picture. So I'm out of the picture twice. Keep it in mind, in the last 2 years or 3 years.
Right. In
twice and out twice. And we hear from DJ, we hear from Bader, and all these things. But you know what? The oddness is, Ramy has gone through Bader as a coach. He's gone through DJ as a coach. He's gone through me twice as a coach. He's gone through George as a coach. And you're only left to radio shows like this with speculation, and that's what it is, because Ramy comments zero on it.
So how did you find out that you weren't working with Ramy anymore?
Through Al Gore's internet.
So you just saw it on the internet. Ramy never contacted you?
They're the same as. So
you might actually believe that you're still working with him if you weren't on the internet, right? Theoretically, you haven't been fired. You might still be working with him.
I need Trump to come in.
Yeah.
I need. You know what? We need to do a parody of a boardroom with Bader playing Trump.
So you have never been fired. So you don't even know, you have not been let go.
Olympia, you're fired.
You have not been let go.
What's that?
You have not been let go then yet, as far as you know. You might
I
still
used
be
to call
working
it
with
pink
him.
slip. I didn't receive my pink slip. I don't know what they call it in the Middle East.
Well, Bader hasn't made any statements either, and I reached out to him. I don't, he has a million cell phones. I did text one of his cell phones, or two of them, and I haven't heard anything.
My prediction: Bader will make the announcement to NyQuil Sean Ray on his non-existent radio show.
Well, we have a relationship with Bader, so I wanted to just get, if Ramy's going to be working with him. Now, it's interesting because basically Bader has become Joe Weider. Let's face it. He's got money like Joe did. He's bringing guys out to Kuwait Oxygen Gym, putting them up like Weider did, right? That's what Weider did with Arnold.
Might as well just buy him, by the way, so he can put
instead of going to the U.S. Well, instead of going to the U.S., they're going out to Kuwait. So he's basically just created his own mecca out there, bodybuilding mecca, where he wants to bring people and be the benefactor of it. And I know Bader. He's a very smart businessman. There's definitely a business model. He's not just pissing money away to say, oh, I got all the bodybuilding. He's not pulling a Blackman. He's not schmoing out. He actually is creating some kind of a bodybuilding machine out there.
Yeah.
Where people will want to come. I mean, people now want to go there because of what he's offering. And that's why people wanted to be with Joe Weider, because they didn't have money. They couldn't train. They wanted to have a place where they can go train and they can be supported. They have their food accessible, their supplements, their gym, people to advise them. I mean, Bader created a bodybuilding factory out there, and it's very appealing for any bodybuilder to want to go there because it's affordable. Now you don't have to worry about people saying, "Oh, are you going to work? How are you going to make your money? How are you going to pay your bill?" He's taking care of all that. So, I mean, I understand the appeal to want to go there. I told Akeem Williams, who I work with, I said, go out there. I said, why not? I said, you're going to get fed. You're going to be, you're going to be trained by these guys. I mean, they're going to push you in the gym. You need that. That's great. And it's not costing you anything, and they're paying for everything. I said, that's a bodybuilder's dream. I said, do not turn that down. But
listen, hold that thought, because I told John De La Rosa the same thing when he said, I'm thinking of going to Kuwait. I said, great experience. I think it's a great. What do you think? I said, I think it's either tremendous or a great experience.
Right. So, I mean, I think what Bader's doing is great. I think what they're doing with Ramy, now, obviously, if we want to make the analogy to Joe Weider, Ramy is essentially Bader's Arnold, right? So, I mean, that's
the problem, Dave. The brand is Oxygen Gym, which is a strong brand, right?
Absolutely.
And it's I'm not making any predictions, but I'll just give it factual touch, is that Ramy beat on multiple occasions this year the two guys who've been second at the Olympia most recently, Roden and Dexter.
Yeah.
So, it would be odd for the brand, I think, if this explosive brand that you have, your Michael Jordan, is no longer playing for the Bulls.
Right, but I don't think
In other words, Dave, so that the oddity would be, what's Ramy doing in Boston training with Jose the last 6 weeks before the Olympia? Because that was a big option last year of running into the Olympia, was, which in retrospect would have been a good idea. There was talk about him going to Boston to train.
Right, but I think the training aspect of what's going on at Oxygen is good for Ramy, because I think that they're really, they make you pose, they make you train, they push you. I think it's a good environment there for Ramy. There's no distractions there. He's in a very comfortable home environment. So I think that you working with him was completely compatible with Ramy representing the Kuwait Oxygen brand. I don't see a conflict there, other than maybe maybe Bader just wanted to have responsibility for the way he looked. I don't know. To me, you would think that Bader would be like, you know what? Who cares? I'm the mastermind behind this whole mecca that I've set up out here. That's enough. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe he wanted personal, control over Ramy's prep. I don't know. Obviously, that seems to be the case. People say, "Oh, how terrible is that he's paying Ramy?" I said, "That's fucking great for Ramy. If Ramy's getting paid to be the ambassador to the Kuwait Oxygen Gym brand, I mean, that's tremendous." And if Bader said, "Hey, leave Chris because I want you exclusively," then you know what? It's no worse than Bleckman giving out an exclusivity contract or AMI giving Phil Heath an exclusivity contract. I mean, AMI gives Phil Heath an exclusivity. He can't talk to anyone, and they don't even use him. They don't even interview the fucking guy. The guy's Mr. Olympia. He does no interviews with anyone because he's exclusive to AMI. How stupid is that? I mean, you would think AMI would say, you know what? Go out there, wear my AMI Weider Flex shirt, and do interviews with everyone because you're Mr. Olympia. We want to spread our brand. They're so short-sighted to not even see that this guy is a 6 times Mr. Olympia. He could be the greatest ambassador for AMI Weider, Flex than anyone. I mean, why wouldn't you want him everywhere? I would want him on every podcast, every radio show, every TV show. Spread this guy. Let him wear a T-shirt with the brand on there.
Dave, that's part of the collapse of print media, MD or Flex. I mean, you can't tell me Flex magazines are selling more. I mean,
they're probably selling more than Bleckman. I guarantee you, they're selling more than Bleckman.
They don't have an they don't have an internet. Let me. Come on. They don't have an internet website, for God's sakes.
Right.
My point is this: is to expound on your point that Phil is, like him or don't like him. I mean, we don't even know what to like and what not to like because he has not actually sat down really for a riveting interview of 1 hour to hear what he has to. Same thing for Kai. People throw these lob softball questions at people all the time, and I think that people want to hear what I want to hear what Phil has to say. In truth, about multiple issues.
Me too,
about
and I bet he would be a much more liked bodybuilder.
The perceived idea of not getting respect from, competitors at different years. Obviously, this year he demanded respect. In certain years, he's certainly slammed the door shut and demanded respect. Other years, bodybuilders on the Olympia stage, me, you, fans, were like, well, Phil's not that good, and maybe he's overrated. I mean, I'd like to hear his perspective on that. I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, he's had a spat with Arnold. Think about Trump, right? Didn't he say Arnold had spaghetti legs also, or something like that? I want to hear what he has to say. So it goes back to, Ramy is with Flex, and we hear nothing what Ramy has to say ever.
Well, I think this is.
This is getting back to what I'm saying. Not a dig on. That's not a dig on Ramy. It's the idea of spreading. As you said, wear the damn AMI hat or shirt, or just. I want to thank my sponsors. I can't even be here without AMI, without the vision or the belief in me that AMI has had to sign me, and then get on with your interview, because the more people you reach, the better. And that's why you have Instagram, for example, with nobody's, have 400 million followers, because they're out everywhere on every avenue that can get them from, one person to another.
Well, if Phil Heath sat down, I'm not saying just with me, with anyone who's a good interviewer. I mean, I think people would actually like him, after they hear where he's come from and who he's about and what he believes in, because no one knows any of this because. You never see him interview.
Don't know him.
Same thing with Ramy. No one, where's Ramy in all this, in this whole controversy? With speculating what Bader's thinking. I'm getting your input. You don't even know you've been fired because Ramy hasn't. Why isn't Ramy opening his fucking mouth? He's got an Instagram account. He speaks English now. Why is not he responding or putting up a video? Look, I understand he's under contract with AMI. So's Phil. So they can't do media stuff, which is ridiculous, obviously. But they can do their own media stuff. They can do their own YouTube channel. They can do their own Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Why isn't Ramy out there saying, hey, this is what happened, this is why I'm doing this, and explaining what's going on, rather than leaving this very fuzzy, unspecified, type of thing out there, especially to you. You would think he'd have the decency after all you did for him to call you up and say, hey, Chris, this is what's going on. Bader offered me $100,000 or whatever it is. I am now, exclusive to him as a brand. And you'd be like, Ramy, congratulations, because you know what? You did good. You're getting paid. Fantastic. Represent that brand.
Dave, it's easier than that. I have people who I have helped who have called me up and said, you know what? Every show I've ever done with you, I like the way I love the way I look, but I just need to try something different to see if I can get even better.
Right.
And I say, genuinely, thank you for calling. Good luck. Good luck. That totally makes sense. You want to be the best. You want to explore all options. I think that's. A great, well thought out idea. Other people have said, you know what, I did 5 shows with you. I don't know what happened. The first 4 were tremendous, and then the last one we just most recently did, I didn't like the prep, and because of that, it's bothering me, and I'm gonna look for someone else to help me. And I said, that's a very logical. It's your life, your career, and I support you, not support, I need to support it, they need my support, but I appreciate that you let me know, and on to better, and hopefully on to better things for you.
Yeah.
But to have Al Gore call me up and say, check the internet, you're on there.
Yeah, the problem is that Ramy has not said anything to you, and that's very immature, if you ask me. I don't know if he listens to the show.
Well,
you're playing
it's
like
a pattern. It's a pattern.
Yeah.
It's a pattern. It's a pattern because you know what? We will never know exactly what happened between DJ and Bader. And after that,
forget that. He had a relationship with you. He owes you a phone call. You know what? This was when Blackman first started doing this exclusivity bullshit back in 2009 when John and I left. He would tell these guys, you can't talk. If I find out you call Dave Palumbo, then the contract's off. So a lot of guys wouldn't even, I'd be contacting them, they wouldn't even get back to me. These are guys that I talk to all the time. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Then maybe a year or two later, I saw one of them. Blackman screwed him over, of course. And they came to me and they're like, I just wanted to let you know, I couldn't call you and tell you. I know you had reached out to me and I feel terrible. I said, why wouldn't you just shoot me a text? How would Blackman, what do you think? I'm going to tell Blackman, hey, guess what? So-and-so contacted me. Are you serious? He scares these guys because they throw so much money at these people that people don't make comments. So I don't know. Maybe Ramy was told, don't contact Chris, There's a possibility, if that's the case. I don't believe that to be the case. I think Ramy is just embarrassed and for some reason feels like he's letting you down, and rather than actually be a man and talk to you about it, he's pulling the I just won't address it, deal. I'll just pretend it doesn't exist and I'll hide here in Kuwait. But to me, Ramy it's not. Bader is a genius as far as I'm concerned. Ramy is the guy who really should step up. Like you said, there's nothing wrong with changing trainers. I have people come and go, and that's fine. I don't care. I'm here for them when they need me, and if they want to try something else, that's up to them. That's about them. It's not about me.
Yeah.
It's not a failure in me. A lot of trainers, when the guys leave them, they think it's like a failure. They feel like personally, like.
Well, how long will it take them to put them in that funny mirror and say 480 pounds?
Yeah. Now, we don't know if it was a good decision in terms of how Ramy will look on stage, but it certainly is good for the brand, and it's good for Ramy's bank account if he's getting paid. And, maybe that's more important. I don't know. I don't know why they couldn't work you into the team over there, but maybe, because you're not a team player. You like to do your thing on your own. That's your whole shtick, and it didn't work into their system. I don't know. But the bottom line is Ramy is a huge brand, and he's the Oxygen Gym brand for certain, and that's what makes people want to go out there, Big Ramy, and I get it. I totally get it.
You know what's funny, Dave, is I respect that they gotta, that they have their brand and they have their team, and, I never like running into the Olympia. I could post thousands of pictures of Ramy as well as the other guys that I helped running into a show. I mean, I don't have a Facebook account to post pictures of people, on that. I didn't talk endlessly at all on any radio shows running into the Olympia about Ramy whenever you brought him up, because I in some ways want to respect the idea that although he was working with me, he's still part of this, Oxygen team.
Right.
So, I didn't want to insert myself as, and that's not my style anyway, necessarily, look at me, I'm with Ramy, here's a picture of us,
yeah.
And
though that Blackman is watching all this that's going on. First of all, he's obviously we talked about the. I mean, I don't. Did we even talk about the David Bay last week incident? I can't rember what. I don't know.
We must have. How could we not have?
Yeah. Well, David Bay was the former editor-in-chief of Muscular Development magazine. He obviously was fired by Blackman, and he came on our Live with TV show, and he gave basically the whole rigmarole of what's going on over there. All the people that are owed money, hundreds of thousands of dollars that's owed out, and all the terrible stuff that was going on over at MD, which we already knew. We already had reported here. multiple times. I don't know if people believed us, but now they obviously believe us because we have a firsthand eyewitness informant, the whistleblower, as Chris calls him, gave us all that. And, obviously we know it's a terrible situation over at MD. They're not doing well financially. They have one sponsor, basically. If that guy pulls out, they're done. So MD is kind of like, crumbling, at the wayside. Now, I did hear a rumor, however, that it might be the same supplement company that sponsors them. I heard a supplement company might buy them out. But I can't see Bleckman selling because...
What was my answer to that? But go ahead.
What was your answer to that?
No, you told me, I said that'd be like buying that magazine is like going out and buying an apartment building, and when you buy it, you realize it takes $10,000 to hold it every month, and you've taken in $7,000 in rents. So after like 3 months,
it's way worse than that, Chris. It's way worse than that. It's like $100,000 to hold it, you're taking in $10,000 a month. So,
Well, as a percentage basis, it's all the same, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, I don't even know what the point of the story I was. Do you remember what I was about to say?
The point was you were going towards. Did we talk about David Bay, and then you wanted to know about. You wanted to wrap up the idea that the rumor mill has it that MD's going to be bought out by a supplement company.
Yeah, no, there was another point I wanted to make. I can't remember it.
Well, they'll come back to you.
Yeah, But anyway, David Bay over there basically revealed the state of bodybuilding magazines in general. I know what I wanted to say, and it's basically not good. Okay, there's not much going on in terms of stability in media reporting organizations because the funding is not there for it. Obviously, we found a way to stay. I always said, Chris, we got to just survive. And that's why when I made some statements and we changed some of our programming directioning when we wanted to do more TV programming, less contest coverage, I said, I'm not going to go out of business. I'm not going to overspend just to say, I got better coverage than Bleckman at this. I won't go. I don't care. I want to stay alive and I want to stay in business. That's what the fans want. They want to hear coverage. They want to hear our analysis. They want a place to go to get the information. And it's not the magazines anymore. Okay, it's on the internet. And that's what it amounts to. And unfortunately, a lot of companies haven't been able to adapt to that. And that's a huge problem for the fans because the fans have to go now to these YouTube junkies or YouTube lackeys, for a better word, who just happen to have a good platform and be able to put out daily content to listen to for their analysis. And that's not good. It's good for entertainment, to listen to some of these guys, but it's not going to be good for people who are actually looking for serious bodybuilding, updates, news, and for information where you can find out about how to, diet properly, how to, take supplements and all these things. So, I think what we're doing is an invaluable service. I mean, but the key has always been stay in business, stay in business, stay in business, stay in business, stay in business. And that will always be, that will always be there. The survival of Rx is the most important thing. And if I have to cut back certain things here and there, that's fine. But, luckily, since we've changed direction and we're not dependent upon traveling all the time for our coverage, we can crank out a lot of content for the viewers. Someone came to my office the other day, my little makeshift office that we have now, because we're still building out the studios, and they could not believe how small it was. They're like, you operate out of here? You do all that shows out of this little place? I said, absolutely do. It's not ideal for us, and we'd like a better setup, but, the show must go on. That's the bottom line. The show must go on.
Well, I'm not comparing you to Warren Buffett, but have you ever heard people go to Warren Buffett's office and they're like, this is it? This is it? It's like, that's all we need. Yeah. It's a very small office.
I have one more question. I don't want to beat this Bader Boodai Kuwait thing to death, but my question for you, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, do the people over there in Kuwait, whoever is going to be working with Ramy this year, at least that's theoretically what we believe to be happening, if we trust the internet, can they get Ramy in shape? Can they get him in the best shape of his life, to be better than he was last year?
I would give them the benefit of the doubt and say yes, it should be a good environment for them. But my experience is, remember, there's this guy Hamid Juma, right? And he was undefeated in England for 2 years. He was hyped to win the British, not last year, not this year rather, the year before, and he pulled out towards the end because his wife was having a baby like the same week as the British nationals, and he was chivalrous enough to not do the show and help her towards the end, which I thought was tremendous. He had asked me about that, and I said I was like, what an admirable trait to have, because a lot of bodybuilders would be
most guys wouldn't do it. Yeah, most guys wouldn't care.
But and actually Sass Harati won the show, who I worked with also that year. And the irony is, I guess he ended up working with people in Oxygen.
Who did? Hamid.
For this year's
Hamid,
British.
Yeah.
Hamid. Yeah. Hamid. Even though he won two shows this year, when I was working with him, running into the British, he ended up working with, and I found out this through the internet. No one tells me directly.
Evidently.
He never told me directly. And not only did he not win, period, but not look his best, secondly, someone I was working with ended up waxing him in the show and won the show, the Geneve.
Right.
So, the question is, can he look his best? You would think yes, with the great environment, but I don't know. So, in my mind, one test is Hamid Juma. So, I was working with him. He was always at his best, and then I wasn't, and then he wasn't at his best. And, De La Rosa went over there for 6 weeks, and they hyped him up and put him in the mirror that looked like he gained 40 pounds in the first week over there. He ate all through the chicken and the anabolic chicken, the anabolic hummus and rice, and you can't tell me that he looked better than even New York that year. He placed higher in New York and looked better than in New York than he did at Tampa, and that doesn't compare his Tampa look to Orlando or New York or Brazil or even the Olympia.
Is it naive, Chris, for these bodybuilders to think that going there for a month or two is going to make a huge difference in how they look, especially when they have a system in place that's kind of doing well for themselves already? I sent Akeem Williams there not to be trained by these guys and not to be, for them to take over his contest prep. I sent him there so that he can have an intense, almost like they would do it back in the day for the boxing. They would take the boxers out for 8 weeks before the event to really have them focus on what they're doing and live bodybuilding. And that's what I sent them there for. And I think that's what they're great for. Is it naive, though, for some of these guys to think that there's some kind of magic, magic bullet over there that they're going to get, a magic pill? When they get over there, they go, oh, here's the magic. Now you can grow.
There is no magic.
Of course not.
No, there's no magic. I'll say it again. There's no magic. And before people have a breakdown that isn't detrimental to, there's no negative at all of going there. It's just, if there was magic, then in my eyes, Hamid Juma would have won the British and won convincingly. If there was magic, then De La Rosa would have come back and, been at his all-time best or his all-time best far. If there was magic. If there was magic, then Victor, who was there, would have, he ended up 11th in the Olympia. I was told that their expectation that he was going to be top 3.
Right.
So if there was, he was 9th the year before without the quote magic. So he dropped down to 2 placings. Placings don't always tell the story, right? Because it could be one Olympia could be more stacked, or people at their all-time best versus another Olympia. But if there was magic, then he'd be top 6.
Yeah. You know what the truth is? Bodybuilders are always looking, and I look, I've been doing this a long time, you've been doing this a long time. They're always looking for the next great thing, the magic thing, something that's going to change the fact that they don't maybe have good genetics for a certain body part. They're open to, they're so pathetically needy in the sense that if someone says, I can fix you, they will go. And if someone's going to pay for them to be fixed, that's even better, for bodybuilders. So I understand the appeal there. We've said it over and over on the show. There is no magic. The magic is in your mindset. I don't think as a bodybuilder I would have been better over in Kuwait because I already trained maximally. I already never missed a meal. I already put my lifeblood into the sport. I lived it. I sacrificed everything. I didn't go out. I did nothing except bodybuilding because I wanted to be the best bodybuilder I could be. So for someone like me to go over there, probably might have made me worse because it might have distracted me because for my routines my own crazy routines that I've set up. But for a person who's not maybe focused enough and who maybe gets easily distracted, those people do well over there because it's a very disciplined environment. And I've said this over and over, that's what they offer, a disciplined environment. And they give the bodybuilders an ability to go there and just focus on bodybuilding. You don't have to work a job. Everything's paid for. It takes the financial stress away from them. So that's the magic. And that's all there is. But that's a lot, just like Joe Weider did back in the day when he would bring bodybuilders out to California and give them a stipend to live and enable them to just live the bodybuilding lifestyle. And that made them better bodybuilders. And obviously everyone was very grateful to Joe for doing that because they couldn't have done it otherwise. They would have had to work, at Home Depot or whatever they were working back then in the day, Ace Hardware, I don't know, during the day and then go train at night. And that's hard as a bodybuilder. We want to be able to eat all day and train and rest. And so I get it over there. I don't want to beat this to death, but that's what's going on. And the reason why I'm spending so much time on this, and I know you are too, is because this is the big news story, aside from MD crumbling into the pits of the earth. I mean, this is the biggest news story in bodybuilding right now, really, if you think about it.
Oh, and we have it and MD doesn't. That's why Sean's going to try to break it after the show. The news, he'll try to regurgitate what we said.
Well, no, Sean just wants to regurgitate. The only thing Sean wants to reveal, all Sean wants to do is say that Ramy's no longer with Chris. That was his breaking news headline. It had nothing to do with anything.
Watch this, Sean. It's not heartbreaking, just to let you know. But Dave, here's a couple. Talk about your tunnel vision when you had with the bodybuilder. What you had as a bodybuilder, and you having no need to go to Kuwait. Let me tell you two great quotes I heard in the last 2 weeks. I think one might be repetitive because I was talking to Dave Brule, Jay Cutler's very good friend. And Dave once in a while texts me. I'm like, well, Dave, these guys, I'm working with guys, Dave, great bodybuilders who I put miss effing meals. They miss meals. And his answer was, without missing a beat, text me back, said, Jay would eat his meal and immediately would be thinking about his next meal. So not only would he not miss meals, but he would be planning the next one. And I asked Jay texted me this week about something about bodybuilding currently, the state of bodybuilding and the state of bodybuilding. And he said, what these guys don't realize is you can have no social life, none. which I think is one, dead on, right? And that means, I just can't imagine Jay in his heyday be texting and Instagramming so much and Facebooking. I can't even imagine him doing that. Someone may be doing it for him. And it relates to an interview I saw last night with Bill Gates and Tom Brokaw. And they asked Bill Gates, how have you changed? You got billions in the bank. And they showed this interview when Tom Brokaw interviewed Bill Gates when Bill Gates was like 25 and now he's 61.
Wow.
And Tom Brokaw said, Bill Gates said, you know what? When I was building, think of that word, building, just like a bodybuilder, building the company, when I was expanding the company, when I was trying to make the company great, he said, I didn't believe in weekends. I didn't believe in days off. I never took a vacation. I never thought about a vacation. I had no social life, none. It's like a quote right out of, that was Jay's quote, no social life, none. But look at what he accomplished.
Right.
So I guess the point is, that's right. Extreme sacrifice.
A lot of people don't want to sacrifice. It's like they want the benefits, but they don't want to do the work that's necessary. I'm still doing that. Yeah. I'm still luckily this is how I rationalize it. I rationalize my work as though at least I'm doing what I like. So I don't really need a vacation because I actually enjoy what I'm doing. But but I have to remember that I have a family too. So now on the weekends, especially if I'm not traveling, we try to do family stuff. Just because I have to make myself do that because I'm driven to work by nature. I'm always finding things to keep myself busy.
Workaholic.
Yeah. Now we're thinking about putting some little mini horses in our yard, and I got to build a fence. Not that I'm going to build a fence, but I'm always like thinking about.
You'll be like me. You'll be like me. You'll do all those fun things, so long as you can work your ass off too.
Yeah, because then it makes it worth it. Right. That's right. Now I'm sure once my son gets a little older, and you've experienced this. Obviously, now your kids are in sports. Now you almost want to go to the events. Right now he's still just diddling around the house, so to speak, and he's fun, but he can't really. He's not walking yet. He's not really speaking yet. So but I'm sure once he does that, I will do more. There'll be even more I'll be doing with him, and I'll be. I remember when Chad Nichols, as a kid, started growing up, and he went from being immersed in this sport to like kind of, where is Chad Nichols? Because he just was spending time with his kids, a lot, and that's just that's what happens. All right,
Dave, what? We got. Wait a minute. I need your testimony on one thing. One funny story. What type of TVs do I have in my house everywhere? The old ones.
The old tube TVs, yeah.
I don't have a flat screen TV, and my kids, 13 and 11, think we're like living in the 1950s.
You are.
So we finally, not me, my wife went out and bought them a big flat screen TV for the family room, which they love because they can play their video games, which have never had a video game player of any sorts until recently. So you got this. They live now for this big flat screen TV and video games.
Right.
So I drove their two friends home yesterday after they played video games all day long, and I came back and I thought the house was on fire. They were screaming like out of their minds. Like something like this is what I do when something like that goes on. I know how to get myself into like extreme concentration so I don't panic. So I walk through the door like nothing happened, and I've never seen the 11-year-old's face this distraught.
Yeah.
While I was out, the 3-year-old had taken a Beyblade, which is this metal toy. It's kind of like a top, like you had when you were little tops. Yeah. And he had chucked it across the room and shattered it.
Broke the TV? Yeah. Are you serious? The 3-year-old?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And the kids, the 13 and 11-year-old, tried to blame it on me.
On you?
Yeah, they tried to say that they were so mad at the 3-year-old because I was pissed that they were mad at the 3-year-old.
Oh.
And they said, no, we're mad because you're going to say we should have been watching him. And I said, don't drag me into it. Don't drag me into it. I said, it's okay. I don't care about the TV. We'll just go back to the old one. Yeah. We still have it. We'll plug it in.
So you're not going to replace the TV?
At some point I will, but I'll make him suffer for a while.
Yeah.
I'll make him suffer. I believe in suffering.
Oh, that's funny. All right, guys, we got to take a quick commercial break. We forgot to break earlier, and when we come back, we're going to do a little Ask Dave and Ask Chris questions and see what you guys have on your minds, and we'll, I guess, do a little recap of what's coming up at the Arnold Classic in a couple weeks. I can't believe it's coming so fast. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
A legendary name in hardcore supplementation. Iron Mag Labs. 100% original, patent pending andro compounds. The most effective hardcore, groundbreaking bodybuilding supplements in the world. In the world. Iron Mag Labs, revolutionizing hardcore supplementation for more than a decade. Visit ironmaglabs.com. ironmaglabs.com.
Hi, I'm Dave Palumbo, and I just had a protein shake made with Quest Nutrition's new salted caramel protein powder. And I can tell you this, it's on a whole new level. It's a total reinvention of the protein shake. The taste is incredible, and its creamy texture and richness make it taste like a real caramel milkshake. It's incredibly low carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 22 grams of protein in every serving. No soy, and it's gluten-free. Just add water, ice, a scoop of protein, and shake it up. It's that easy. I actually look forward to drinking this shake. And Quest Nutrition has got a total of 7 different flavors. They come in convenient single-serving packets so you can mix and match. Check out loveyourproteinpowder.com for more information on Quest protein powders and some delicious shake inspirations.
Welcome back to Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo talking with the technician Chris Aceto on this very nice February day. It's actually 80 degrees here. I'm sure it's way colder in Maine.
It is 25, but because the sun's out, no, the sun's out and there's no wind chill, it feels like 27, so it's mild.
That's pretty brutal, Chris, if you ask me. I'm very happy that I'm not in the Northeast right now. It's been real. It's funny. I went out for a bike ride yesterday in the morning. It was early, and because Amanda had taken Logan to gymnastics or something like that, and it was probably like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and it was like a little chilly. It was probably 60 degrees. It was probably 58 degrees. But you know, when you're riding the bike, it's a little chilly. The sun hadn't really come out yet, and I was like, I rode, and I really didn't even sweat the whole time, which is a great, when you can ride the bike and not break a sweat, it's awesome, you know, because it's perfect temperature. And I get back, and I take a shower, and I had 2 people come to my house for consults. And when they were done, it was probably like around 1 o'clock, and I walked outside, and it was like blisteringly hot. I'm like, this is the right place to be right now. I said, doesn't get much better than this, so... I am enjoying. A lot of people keep asking me, "Do you like Florida?" I said, "Yeah, I like it." I said, "It's a little slower than New York, but that's fine for me because I'm slowing down. I don't need any more."
How about this?
Racing.
Do you like that? Do you like that income tax bill that doesn't come?
I love the income. I even like the property tax bill that doesn't come better because
I know
my property tax is $12,000 less per year. Think about if I told the bodybuilder I'm going to give you $12,000, they would be ecstatic. Imagine I was giving New York State for taxes, for property taxes.
More.
I'm not even talking about income tax, property taxes. I was giving them $12,000 a year extra, just so I could say I live in New York.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's why a lot of people.
I told you when the guy there was a big, I forget his name. I usually follow all the hedge fund titans. One of the big, I think it's Tepper. He moved his hedge fund to Miami from Connecticut.
Really?
And yes, and the income tax on that, between the corporate tax and his personal income tax that he paid to the state of Connecticut, it blew a hole in the budget.
Oh, wow.
Of the school system because he lived in Greenwich.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I mean,
and their taxes are not even that bad in Greenwich, but
no, no, that's right. That's why everyone lives here outside the city.
Yeah.
But if you take what he was paying, and a percentage of that, the majority of your taxes usually goes to school budgets. Blew a hole in the budget by moving himself down to Miami.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.
At some point, I'll go. I guess I don't know.
I don't know. Like I said, who's I talking to? I forget who I was talking to just recently about this. And they're like, I forget what they do in New York State. I think they're a cop in New York. And they make, cops in New York, especially on Long Island, make good money. I'm like, you can't afford to move.
Cops in Maine make good money.
Yeah, I said, you can't afford to move. I was talking to a guy at the Deer Park gym. He was a police captain. And I said, you can't afford to, because he's like, I should move to Florida. I said, you can't. I said, you make your money in New York. you won't never make as much money as a police captain in Florida as you do in New York. So for you, you got to stay here. I didn't, because my income that I make is not conditional on being in New York State. It doesn't matter where. I could live in Alaska and make the same income. So it didn't pay for me to stay there, really. That's the difference. A lot of people, though, they have to stay where they are. I mean, you have real estate in Maine. It's if you're not there overseeing it, things go wrong. So I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, you're smart. You have real estate in Florida too, so you can actually go back and forth. And your kids are homeschooled, which means you're not really beholden to anything.
I know. We should have for the whole winter, but that's another story.
Yeah, I think next year
Maybe
you got to figure it out.
Winter. We might go for the whole winter.
4 months, in Florida. The rest of the time, 8 months in Maine. There you go. You never have to see a drop of snow on the ground.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
So we got the Arnold
Maybe
Classic coming
Kuwait
up,
for 4 months.
Chris. This
Yep.
coming up faster than we think, and we have a good lineup. Obviously, there's no guy you're going to look at and say he's definitely winning the show. I mean, we got a lot of hype around Cedric McMillan, although he's been very quiet and we haven't heard anything from. Have you heard from Cedric McMillan?
Very, very good, and he's heavy, which he needs to be heavy, meaning he's very round.
Good.
Very round. And he's in. I mean, what are we, a month out? He's in very good shape.
Excellent. Well, he has to be.
I would say
the favorite.
he's definitely on par with last year's Arnold. Yeah. I would say. And if you had asked me frankly before the Olympia last year, I'd say no. He's not on par with the Arnold.
Right. So that's a good Cedric McMillan, because obviously this guy last year theoretically beat Kai Green. So I mean, there's no one else in this lineup who is even close to that level, of bodybuilding excellence. Now, there are some guys coming up who are dangerous, obviously. We have to consider Max Charles dangerous in this lineup. We have to consider Lionel Baiki dangerous in this lineup. Juan Morel dangerous in this lineup. And, of course, Dallas McCarver. And I can't even leave Michael Lockett out of that list, because he's a wild card as well. Yeah. Can any of these guys beat Cedric McMillan? I don't believe so when Cedric is at his best. However, Cedric's a wild card. You never know what you get with Cedric. In your estimation, is this Cedric's show to lose?
Absolutely.
I agree. It'll be interesting. I think. Who do you think is the most dangerous guy of all the guys I just listed? For Cedric's physique.
For Cedric, I think Baiki is very, very dangerous.
Yeah, I agree.
If Baiki has a snafu, Juan is tall and round, and he's potentially dangerous. I just have to, Juan just has to be right to be really effective, meaning he just can't be flat.
Yeah.
And he just can't be. And as you know, he can get flat. And then when he's round, sometimes while he's got good condition, it's just not enough. So in other words, he has a physique that could be dangerous in the lineup, but he has to be spot on. And yes, he's been spot on. I thought when he won the New York Pro, he was, for his physique, spot on. I think he was really round, and his condition was really good, and it just translated. It made his height work to a strong advantage in that lineup. It just made him look round all over. I thought his Brazil look was really impressive a couple of years ago. I mean, he was round there.
Yeah.
I think when he tries to chase condition, it hurts him a little bit. But the knock is, of course, if he's too round and doesn't have the condition,
it's a fine line.
Look,
Dennis Wolf.
Yeah, it's a fine line.
Dennis Wolf,
Dennis Wolfism. Dennis Wolf. Same as, and I don't know if it's the fast metabolisms with height, fast metabolisms with height and width, but those are two guys that fall into that category. When they're dangerous, they're extremely dangerous, and when they're off, they can get beat.
Yeah. And Josh Lenartowicz, has to be considered a wild card. Yeah, he's got a lot
Didn't
of.
even know he was in the show. Didn't even know he was in the show.
He got into the show. And I don't know. You might say I'm wrong, but for some reason, Josh Lenartowicz's physique reminds me of a Gustavo Bedell. He's thick. He's got a ton of muscle on his body. He's got great conditioning. And when he puts it all together, he's a dangerous guy that body part for body part can battle with anyone. Gustavo Bedell's greatest claim to fame was that he beat Ronnie Coleman at the challenge round, at the Olympia that year.
Twice.
Yeah. So, I thought that, but that's like a Josh Lenartowicz. He's got the body parts to beat people. Whether the flow is good enough to beat a Cedric McMillan, I don't think so. But he certainly is a dangerous competitor in this lineup.
Yeah, no, I didn't know he was in the lineup. He's very good. When I think of Josh, I think of a square physique in a good way. His shoulders are square. His thighs are wide from the kneecap all the way up to the hips. He's got a dense look, a rugged look. I think he's could be a wild. He could be a wild card just because the crazy quote names that haven't been in the show. The Kais and the Dexters and the Rodens and the Wolves. Those names are not there. Doesn't mean it's not going to be. It could be one of the best shows ever if everyone hits their peak.
I agree. I think it's going to be a very exciting lineup, which is good because sometimes we don't get that. Obviously, last year was with the Kai Green entering. That was the selling point of the show, but you don't know. And the 212 lineup seems like it really shaped up pretty good too. We got obviously Jose Raymond looking to come back and avenge that loss to Hide Yamagishi, but we have Ahmad Ashkenani in the lineup now, who was second at the Olympia, so behind Flex Lewis, and he beat Jose there. So Jose had 2 losses last year to Ashkenani and to Hide. They're both in this lineup, and from what I hear because my friend Craig Lickers trains with what's his name, with Jose. He says he's looking the best he's ever seen him. So
yeah, Jose looks tremendous, and Jose reminded me yesterday that the last time he won the Arnold was when the Patriots won the Super Bowl, and of course, Patriots were in the Super Bowl. Yeah. It's just how Jose's mind works. But I think we got a month to the show. And, Jose ends up in third at the Olympia this past year. And, 4 weeks out, there was still a lot of work to be done on Jose's physique. And we're at 4 weeks, I guess, 3.5 weeks, right. Something like that now. And he probably could be ready by this Wednesday.
Wow. Okay. That's good news for Jose, because when Jose has to play catch-up, he just doesn't have that same snap to his physique, and I think it's a good sign that he's in shape ahead of time. And of course, we can't count David Henry out of that line. David Henry's a dangerous guy.
The whole lineup is impressive.
Yeah, Charles. It's really the Olympia lineup minus Flex Lewis.
Guy's in the lineup. Charles Dixon's in the lineup. Yeah. Hyde is in the lineup.
This Mitchell States kid is really good. He made his pro debut last year. Zane Watson from Canada. We have Kyung-Won Kang in the lineup, who's always dangerous. Maybe size-wise can't hang with these guys, but great shape and conditioning. Quincy Winkler, if he ever puts it all together. So it's certain. Charles Dixon. The lineup is stacked. Like I said, it's the Olympia. It's the 212 Olympia minus Flex Lewis, which is good because Flex usually makes it unbeatable. So this is actually a competition that is up for grabs. So it might be the most exciting division in the entire show, to be honest with you. We like the big guys and everything like that, but this is going to be a very competitive 212 lineup. Prize money's $22,000 for first place, so that'll be a nice incentive to win. I'm sure Jose would love that. And like I said, if I'm a betting guy, I'm putting my money on Jose. I believe that he's pissed off from last year. I think he wasn't as focused last year because he got married, and I think now his focus is back, and I think he's got something to prove. And I think when Jose has something to prove, he's very, very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
All right, let's segue, Chris, to some Ask Dave questions. I don't know if I got any Ask the Aceto questions, and it might be my own fault. If people want to ask Chris any questions on the show, because I know a lot of people told me they want to, You got to send your questions to my email, huge285@aol.com, and I will read them on the air. Just put in the title, ask the technician or whatever, ask Chris. And if you want to ask me any questions, you can send them to Chris at Aceto@RxMuscle.com. So I'm sure you got a bunch for me, so read them off.
Dear Dave, was massage therapy such as ART used in the 70s and 80s like it is today? And how much does it inhibit muscle growth if a person doesn't regularly get treatment?
I don't think they didn't. I know for a fact they didn't do ART back then, because that's a very recent. And I remember when my friend Derlin Castro was first took the course and was working on me. I was like his guinea pig. This was back in the 90s, probably 96, 97, around there. That's when he first took it. So it probably was a couple years before that, before it actually was discovered. So this is a relatively new therapy. I'm sure they did massage. I've never heard Arnold or any others talk about it, but I'm sure they definitely got massage therapy back then. It's not as much of a science as it is today, where they have specific modalities. You know, Derek uses power tools, Derlin does ART, and you know, they do massage. I mean, Derek Farnsworth employs like 14 different modalities in his treatment. So I think it's more specific. They did have chiropractic back then, so I think a lot of the guys got adjusted before it was even well known that people got adjusted, and I think they got massage therapy. And you know, as far as can you build muscle without getting those therapies? Sure, but are you going to recover better and be able to go back to the gym? Sure, absolutely. You got to remember, if you're going to the gym and you're squatting 600 pounds, 500 pounds, you're deadlifting 600 pounds, you're bench pressing 315, 405, you're going to injure muscles. I'm not talking about tearing pec muscles. I'm talking about you're going to get damage to the muscles, and you're going to get little injuries, and they're going to heal up, and they're going to form scar tissue, and then the muscles don't slide past each other properly because they're stuck to each other, and then you start getting weird joint problems and overuse injuries that you never had before, and you don't understand why. And it's because you have all this buildup of small micro scar tissue adhesions all over the body. And so it's a good idea when you realize that things are not working right. And the funny thing is, I always send people for ART, and I'm the dummy who waits till his whole body is twisted and contorted, and I'm like, I'm just getting old. What's happening to me? And then someone's like, when was the last time you had a massage or anything like that? I'm like, I don't know, 3 years ago. And then I'll go and get a massage, or I'll get work done by Derek, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, I'm fixed, So I think that it is important to get therapy on yourself. Is it necessary to get it? Like, I think Cutler was getting massaged every day. I mean, obviously that's unaffordable for most people. Is it necessary? Probably not. Once a week would be great. Once every 2 weeks. Once a month would be great to get a full body deep tissue massage if you can afford it. But, don't bankrupt yourself, to get all these modalities. It does feel good to have someone rub it on you, but, you got to be able to budget your money too.
Okay. Next question. Dave, what do you think of DJ's claim that Robert Timms is 100% natural, and that DJ will bet anyone $10,000 to prove otherwise?
I don't know. I mean, I know Dennis likes his money, so I can't imagine Dennis putting up 10 grand if he thought that Robert Timms was not natural. So, I can see George lying about something like that, and I know he's done that before. But Dennis is really not a liar, so I believe that Dennis is telling the truth. That if he says Robert Timms is natural and he's willing to put up 10 grand of his own money, there's no way this guy's taking any drugs, because DJ don't like to lose.
Dave, what does Ben Pekulski have to do to move up in placings?
Well, he just won a show last year, so that he's obviously moving up. I think that Ben is structurally not as good as some of these other guys, and I think he's he's got the best legs, one of the best set of legs on the whole pro circuit, but his upper body is just not as good structurally as some of these other guys, and he's battled it, and he's made it better than it was, but he always is going to have some sort of a lack of there, whether it be in his arms or his back a little bit, but he has something that's just not as good. So he'll do good in lineups where guys come in and they're a little off, out of shape. He'll do well in lineups that are not as strong. but he's going to have tough at the big shows like the Arnold and the Olympia because you're going against genetically superior guys to you. I think that Ben should be commended for what he did with his physique and how far he's gone with it, given the fact that I'm sure a lot of people would have told him, you're never going to be a good pro. So he proved everyone wrong, and that's because he's a methodical lunatic. He trains. His training is very methodical. His
he's
diet,
very methodical.
his supplements. He's very analytical. I've talked to him on the phone many times, and he's a scientist, and that's what you got to be.
Well,
That's what I did.
Dave, once I was on the bus with him, and someone asked me. We were on a bus, maybe 5 or 6 of us recently, last year, and they said, "Chris, it wasn't like a nutrition question," and I'm like, "Yeah, an apple is okay." And I heard this voice says, "Well, not necessarily," and I was like, "Who said that?" And I didn't even turn my right shoulder because the person was in the back.
Right.
And then I heard this whole dissertation on the topic, which was 1, scientific, 2, methodical, 3, made sense, 4, refuted, yet supported what I had to say. And right. I turned back as Ben Pogolski. I said, of course. It was like he turned the question, which I was falling asleep, and tried to give a quick answer into like a free seminar for the bus. So he's very, very methodical and scientific. Dave, what is your starting point for determining carbohydrate and calorie goals for a mass-building diet? I'm coming off several months of a low-carb or keto diet and would like to put on some mass, but I'm unsure about how to increase the carbs and the calories for appreciable gains in mass without getting too fat.
Right. I usually start off with about 35 or 40 grams of carbs per meal. When I put people back on carbs, if they're on a low-carb diet, I'll usually add it back slowly to see how their body responds to it. So I keep the protein high, at 1.5 grams per pound that they weigh. I keep the fat, at about a half a gram per pound, up to 0.75 grams per pound for men. Usually for women, I keep it at a half a gram per pound. And then the carbs, I'll put like 35 to 40 grams in per meal and see how they do on that. I mean, if you're doing 6 meals a day, that's almost 250 grams of carbs. If they're not gaining weight and they're losing, then I know I got to add more in. Okay, because I know the protein and fat is set. That to me is set. That doesn't change. But the carbs are your fuel source. So if you need more fuel, you fuel them up more. You give them 50 grams, 60 grams per meal. And you can continually add and adjust this every week or so, depending on what your body weight is doing and how you look. And then if you start getting a little too watery, you cut them back a little bit. So that's what, sometimes it's good to have a coach to be able to tell you, what, let's up your carbs, let's lower your carbs. When I have guys in off season, they send me pictures and I'm like, I look at him and I'm like, this guy's really bloated. He's starting to look like he could get sloppy. I'm like, let's cut your carbs back 10 grams per meal. Or I have another guy who sends me, an update, after 2 weeks on off season, and I'm like, this guy's growing pretty good, but he actually looks flat to me. I'm like, let's up your carbs by 10 grams per meal, and that usually will solve the problem. So it's a trial and error thing, but I always start a little, conservatively, especially when you're coming off a low carb diet, just so you don't blow up too fast.
Okay, dear Dave, is there really a difference in water retention running into a show from using, say, 500 milligrams of propionate a week and 500 milligrams of sustanon a week? In other words, will it make a difference if I use propionate versus any other type of test?
No, I don't believe that. And I'm going to tell you why I don't believe that to be the case. People say, if you use propionate, it's faster acting, it's not going to hold as much water. Yeah, well, that's the truth if you're taking like 2 shots a week, of 50 milligrams. But if you're taking 200 milligrams of propionate every other day, which is what most guys do, it's building up in your system just like the long-acting ones are building up in your system. So they're going to aromatize it. Testosterone aromatizes the same. So I'm of the belief that, first of all, propionate hurts a lot, so I don't like to use it personally, and I know a lot of my clients don't like to use it, the people I help. So I just have them use a long-acting, testosterone ester because it's doing the same thing, and it's more predictable because it's the half-life of it. You're not worried about every 48 hours the stuff dropping and going up and down and up and down. You're going to get nice, consistent blood levels of it. So I kind of abandoned that whole, when I first started, I started doing the whole propionate thing right before a show and suspension, and because fast-acting, less water, it's bullshit. Testosterone is testosterone. You're better off using a long-acting testosterone that has a nice that's going to keep your blood levels nice and steady.
Okay. Yeah, Dave, what is a reasonable rate of muscle gain or for a natural trainee, or even someone who is on a physiological or TRT dose while on a mass gaining diet?
What was the question again?
What are reasonable rates of muscle gain for a natural trainee, or even someone who is on a physiological or TRT dose while on a mass gaining diet?
A TRT dose of testosterone is 200 milligrams a week. A lot of times, sometimes they even prescribe up to, I know Titan will prescribe up to, I think, 300 or 400 milligrams a week. That to me that's a steroid dose. I mean, you're going to grow on that. You'll grow on 200 milligrams a week really well, especially if you haven't taken anything and you're a natural lifter. So you're going to grow at a much greater rate than a natural competitor. And you know what? There's no definable. I remember they used to say, if you're natural, you can only gain 7 pounds of muscle a year. I mean, who created that? When I first started training, I was gaining like 20 pounds of muscle a year, 15 pounds for the first 2 years because, I never worked out really. I never really ate right. So there's no rules, once you hit a certain level as a natural athlete, it's harder to gain. And some guys will be happy if they gain 2-3 pounds a year. And as you get older and your testosterone level isn't as good, you might not grow as much. You put 200 milligrams of testosterone into a 40-year-old bodybuilder's regimen who's been natural his whole life, he's going to put on 20 pounds of muscle probably from this stuff. So there's no mathematical equation that I can give you that's going to tell you how much muscle you'll gain. Because it has to do with your training and your eating, too.
Okay. Dear Dave, I am looking into my first injectable cycle, testosterone enanthate. And then, let's see, the follow-up question. Okay. Do you feel there is a body fat percent someone should be under before starting an anabolic cycle? He said, I have read that if you are above 15%, you should not use anabolics.
No. I don't. That's ridiculous. It's like that's like that. That's as ridiculous as these people who go for the stomach stapling surgeries because they're overweight. You know what the doctors tell them? You got to lose weight. So they diet, they lose weight to get the stomach stapling. I'm like, well, if you could diet to lose weight for the stomach stapling operation, then you don't need the stomach
just keep
stapling
going.
operation, right?
Just keep going.
Yeah, just keep going. Exactly.
Let's see. So you poo-pooed that question. I think we answered that one last week. Dear Dave, how much branched chain amino acids would you recommend in a dieting phase before I train?
The whole branched chain amino acid I guess you could say, segment of the supplement industry is an interesting one. And when I ask most people why they take branched chains, 90% of them, and maybe this is just my client, 90% of them tell me because they taste good. It's like they like to add it to their water, they like to drink it, and it's a psychologically they think that they're recovering and growing better on the stuff. The worst thing you can do if you're dieting, like for a show, is to take branched chain amino acids, I believe, because I think it's just adding unnecessary calories. If you're eating the diet correctly, you're eating enough protein, you don't need branched chains. And you know who told me this years ago? Doug Wentz. And it wasn't about branched chains. I was following a diet that he had written for me and said, all right, I want you to eat this, this, and this. And then he said, and then I was doing extra whey isolate shakes or whey protein shakes. I don't know if there was isolate back then. And I wasn't losing weight. He's like, you don't look like you're getting drier to me. And I was pissed because I was starving and I had a good metabolism. And he goes, what do you do anything extra? I said, well, I have a whey shake, here and there. And he's like, you don't need that. It's extra calories. He goes, you're eating plenty of protein. He goes, how much protein do you fucking need? And he was right. I stopped it and I got instantly hard. Same thing with the branched chains. I got these guys doing these tons of branched chains and they're not getting in shape because they're overdoing the calories. Now, off season, if you want to have a branched chain shake, while you're training or right before you train, or maybe if you have some downtime during the day, you want to infuse yourself with a little bit of more amino acids, that's fine. But once again, you don't want to overdo it because if you're only taking in branched chains, which is what most of these formulas are, you're throwing the balance of your other amino acids off. So you don't want to be constantly drinking branched chains all day long. It's just you're going to throw your body off. I'm telling you. Trust me when I tell you this.
Got it. We got Stump the Jumbo.
Oh, wow.
Stump the Jumbo?
Okay, let's do it.
who was the only contestant to compete in the first 3 Mr. Olympia contests. The first 3.
That's a good that's a good question.
If you don't get this, I know when you hear it, you're going to say, I should have known that.
Now,
it was my uncle's favorite bodybuilder. My uncle's favorite bodybuilder.
I got to think about
because
it.
When
because Larry Scott won the
like,
first
who the
2, but he wasn't in the third. So that excludes him. And what people don't realize is there really weren't a lot of guys in the Mr. Olympia contest at all, for that matter. Initially, it was a very small group of guys. The only guy I know who was around the scene forever was Harold Poole. Now, I don't know if that's the answer, but I'm going to say Harold Poole.
Dave, you are the best. Harold Poole.
Well, there was only 3 guys in the Mr. Olympia for the first year, so Larry Scott wasn't the answer. So Harold Poole was the other guy, and I can't remember who the third guy was. So that was my logic, But all right, no T-shirts being given out.
Well, he has a little news item which I think listeners may be interested in.
Okay.
About he said, Dave. He said you have mentioned in the past about X-rays taken of Flex Wheeler's calves due to NyQuil Sean Ray's accusation of calf implants. As reported in Flex magazine, though, they didn't take X-rays and just did a visual inspection of Flex Wheeler's calves and didn't find any incisions. Rumor had it that the story of him stepping on 2 sewing needles was actually when he had the calf implants inserted through the heels, and thus no scars.
Right. I don't know. I guess.
Interest.
Yeah, maybe I should do a visual inspection on Flex Wheeler's calves now because he probably still has them, right?
We need to do a visual inspection of Sean's wallet to make sure he's got Bleckman's checks.
Didn't Arnold have? I think Arnold had calf implants, right? Wasn't that the rumor?
No, that was a rumor. Yeah. His, to me, always looked real.
But he had those huge calves even when he was smaller. So, I'm thinking maybe he did have calf. I thought I heard Lou Ferrigno had calf implants done too. I had heard that rumor.
Yeah. Well,
I don't want to. The reason I say it's a rumor is because I don't know for certain, so I can't confirm or deny. But I did hear that.
Well, they looked phony for a year or so.
Yeah, I have the alligators back across the street. Amanda said.
Oh, take a picture of it, please. And I would love to see the picture of it.
Yeah, I think Amanda's got one. I'm going to send it over to you. It's not too big.
Was the donkey screaming? The donkey and the llama is going nuts or something?
Someone else said they spotted right by my house a black panther at 6:30 in the morning 2 days ago. So I don't know if it's true or not because I have one of my crazy neighbors has like these security cameras, and he posted a picture up claiming it was the black panther, and it looked like a deer to me. So. But this is another sighting. So if there's black panthers, out in my wooded areas by my house, that's pretty intense. I didn't know they had cats like that living like in our backyard, but certainly don't want to run into one of those. That's for sure. Those would be way more dangerous, believe it or not, than the alligators. Because
why are they quicker, or they just eat more, or eat more people?
Very dangerous. I don't know if black panthers attack humans though, but. Obviously,
you don't want to find out.
Kind of stay in the water. They're not really coming up on the land too much. So even though they might come up on the shore to bask a little bit, they're not like walking across your yard or anything like that. My wife said, "Yes, they do." She's like, "Yes, they do. Yes, they do." All right.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
I hope she's not right. Yeah, that's right.
They always say don't leave your dogs out on a leash in the backyard in Florida because it's like bait for the gators. But the guy across the way from me has Logan. The guy across the way from me has goats, so that's the bait. So let the alligators will stay on his property and we'll stay away from ours. Hopefully. Anyway, all right, Chris. I know you got a busy day. I got a busy day, and hopefully everyone enjoyed our analysis of the Ramy situation. Like I said, I hope maybe Ramy listens to the show and that he will say to himself, you know what? I would really like to know, or I'd like the world to know what I'm thinking, because that's really what we all want to know. What is Ramy thinking? What was his motivations for doing what he does? And, only time will tell if it was a good move or not from a competitive standpoint. We know financially it's probably a good move, but only time will tell if it was a competitively smart move to make. For now, though, we are out of time until next week. Remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio.
The truth hurts.